Hi everyone, this is Natalie Fowler and this is my reply posting for Module 1. I enjoyed everyone's responses to the prompts for Module 1. I enjoyed listening to those different views. And so I'll start with Sarah. I agree with you that when I came into this course and the question was posed as to what was my definition of social justice, I had a very narrow view, and it did mainly surround around race and gender and equitable treatment, just like you said. And so I did feel like the videos did give the appropriate terminology and point out key players and stakeholders that I wasn't aware of before. And so I feel like you said the same thing. Um, and then you mentioned that the second video actually, the one that describes social justice in the concept of a moral, or in the context of a moral assessment, that it helped to broaden your narrow definition, and I think it did that for me as well. I also liked when you pointed out the your first inclination as to what the definitions of diversity and inclusion. I too felt like diversity mainly talks about differences, especially in reference to gender, race, ethnicity, and then inclusion. I come from an education background as well, early childhood, and so I also relate that to special ed, special education, and special needs children. I'm interested to hear about your findings for your project about non-natives and the at-risk population in the education realm and how they function in school. I think that will be very interesting. Then Adina, your definition of social justice surrounded the concept of unfair treatment in society or inequality. I feel like that is, if I would have actually had to write down pen and paper what I thought that it would be about inequality in society. And like I mentioned with Sarah, it would mainly surround about race and gender. And then you discussed how you felt like social diversity and social justice were not interchangeable terms, or you had never viewed them as that before, and how there's gray areas. And I completely agree with that as well. I had never thought of those two terms as interchangeable. Then I really did find it interesting when you were talking about economic oppression, and how oppression is when certain groups have power over people, and how you've seen the cycle of oppression in neighborhoods, and that you've seen oppression at different levels. I thought that was very interesting that you brought that out, that maybe there's oppression because of a race and maybe a gender. So there can be multiple layers of oppression. And then your project topics, I think, will yield some very interesting findings on race and gender as well. Christina, your definition of social justice discusses the equal treatment regardless of differences, and concepts around social justice are things that prevent a just society. I thought that was a very interesting twist on the definition that you included that, because so often things that we associate with social justice have a negative connotation, and they do. We do associate them with the prevention of a just society. And then you discussed how you didn't ever think that social justice was a debatable topic, or you had never really thought of that before. How some people may not even believe that social justice is an issue or is an actual thing. And I agree with that. I believe that people are unaware of what social justice is. The saying, ignorance is bliss. But I actually didn't think that people would debate the topic. But after the readings and the video, I think that it's clear that there is debate around what is social justice and is it an actual issue. And then I like that you talked about the norm, and what is normal today, because that's ever changing. And I do think that your project topics of gender identity and sexual orientation will be very interesting, and how these populations are becoming more visible, and how our thoughts around these different gender identities and sexual orientations are socially constructed. And a lot of those live in the past, and I think it'll be very interesting to hear what you find out throughout your project. And lastly, Phyllis, your definition of social justice I thought was very unique, in that you said that it includes all aspects of social life, and that pretty much encompasses everything. And then you talked about how we have a personal responsibility to improve society. Once we're aware of that social justice is an actual thing, we as members of society, we have that responsibility, and that term responsibility is loaded for members of society. I like that you pointed out the 2 points of the video that you disagreed with, and when you talked about the minimum wage increase, and then you discussed how stagnant income is bad for society, and that we need to provide assistance for low-income families. Not that they're entitled to it, but that we provide assistance. And I think that's a lot different than being a crutch. So, and that's sometimes hard for people to differentiate, but assistance is needed. And then your project topic should be very interesting. Latinos in higher education. Why did they decide to continue their education, and why did they choose this institution? So I think those are very good questions that should yield some interesting results. So I enjoyed listening to everyone's post, and I look forward to working with you throughout the semester. Thanks.